Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm recovering from a sore throat, so won't be talking too much and drinking water in between. So, going to be reviewing Monster Bootcamp, Part 1. So, Day 1, there is a Tamadra Carnival. Basically, each roll will give you a Tamadra, which is kind of pointless. Day 2 has 2 times rates for Heroic Warriors and the Wise Dragons. Wise Dragons are 5 times burst for their respective color. So those are very powerful. These are reasonably powerful as well, but 2 times rates, You also get plus 50 of every roll. However, the focus is going to be on the Pantheons and Godfest exclusives featured, because they're at 6 times rates. And 6 times rates is incredibly high for Pantheon and Godfest exclusives. So that is actually a good time to acquire these cards, and the cards that are actually featured are incredibly powerful, so it is worth pursuing. Now, I used S through D ranking. Things have moved, and I'll discuss them. I did talk about Yogg and Red Dude previously. I'm not going to repeat it, but I have it in my article anyway, so you can read through it. There's a Yogg review there. Basically, Yogg is one of the best leaders in the game. It's going to make your skill level go down because you only need 2 combos to obliterate everything. Yeah, it's just amazing. And then the Red Dude, it's actually a high multiplier combo leader while giving plus 2 combo count, which is interesting because it doesn't actually break your orbs like, say, Mary does, so there is more flexibility built in. Again, they're a bit older at this point in time, so I'm not going to go over them in great detail. Long Pantheon list. Again, I'll scroll through it slowly. Sometimes the formatting gets a little strange. I'll probably go back and try and fix it, but going between like mobile and website, things can look a little odd. I did admit I haven't been able to do much in the past while, so if things look out of place, let me know. Again, these are relative ratings, like take them with a grain of salt. Just because certain cards are strong for the general population doesn't necessarily mean they're the best in the world, because you might find value in lower ranked cards. Like for myself, I used Hatsume, who's C-, for challenge 9, and it actually worked pretty well. Okay, so Godfest exclusive tier list. So there have been changes. Ilm promoted, Balden A10 promoted, and Kaede, Balboa, Anaphon, and Kana demoted. So, the reasons why this occurred, Ilm goes from A to S, and Ilm was always kind of on the cusp in my opinion, but with the release of Yogg and the fact that ranking dungeons have actually returned to North America means that Ilm is actually much more desirable because A, it helps Yogg teams function, and B, it is actually one of the key cards required for scoring well in ranking dungeons. So, between having a premier team and helping you guarantee yourself a crown, it's enough to push them over the edge. Furthermore, they can act as a great sub because they do have a Dragon Killer Awakening, so again, dragons tend to be the most common encounter, so being able to kill dragons is a big deal. Balden A10 moving up from C to B. This is because I probably just undervalued them to begin with, but also because they have so many Killer Awakenings, and more often than not, they're going to be dealing 9 times damage to most encounters. And because of that, and the fact that we're starting to get a lot more of these interesting challenges like the Heavenly Palace of Heretics, which I cleared all through 1 to 10. You can find that on my YouTube channel. But those dungeons have stupidly high health bosses, and if you're lacking like Anubis or other premier leaders who do amazing amounts of damage, having Balden and A10 can be valuable for their Killer Awakenings because you can stick them on, don't really care about the base active, at least A10 is a shorter cooldown, and you basically just blast through things and let them do the heavy lifting for you. Kaede, Balboa, Typhon, and Kana are all demoted from A to B, and it's because they were powerful when they premiered. They had value, they had merit, they were sometimes more unique, but over time and power creep has kind of brought them down. Kaede actually was S at one point, but they've gone down because Heart Crosses became less valuable, and then mono green teams stopped being as relevant, so it's hard to really capitalize on Kaede. It doesn't really shine at any aspect, Tsubaki has killers, and that's why Tsubaki's ranked A, but Kaede's alongside Sumire because they don't really do anything that particularly strong. And there's no great mono wood team out there either. Sumire does function well on married teams, so again, Kaede's just an awkward place. Balboa used to be one of the best solutions for dealing with pre-draws because you defense break them down to 0 and you can match and set up your board at the same time. However, with the introduction of guard break and crazy high multiplier leaders, you are able to essentially just punch through high defense cards, high defense spawns anyways. So the need for Balboa has greatly plummeted because he's not really doing much compared to what he used to beforehand. And he might even drop down to C, but he does have 2 Killer Awakenings, so I'm kind of like, maybe not, because it's still a useful active. It's good in 3-player arena against the Metatrons. That's Guard Break doesn't work as well against them, but it works very well against the Metatrons, so I guess there's some merit. Killers are useful, so I think he might stick around in B, but he's definitely fallen from grace. Typhon, I undervalued them, then overvalued them, and now I feel like they're well placed in B. Their active skill is okay for combo-based teams, but it doesn't work well for monocolor teams because it's 4 elements, so it's not enough orb distribution. Oh, it's too much orb distribution. It's not condensed enough. So that's a little awkward, and her typing doesn't allow her to be used on Dark Athena or Dark Metatron teams, where she could actually do well because she's got great bulk overall. And finally, Canna is demoted because even though she has amazing TPA burst damage potential, her weighted stats are becoming a little outdated because reincarnated cards have 1,000 compared to her 800 or so. And yes, TPA bursts high, but 7 Combo Awakening bursts higher more universally. You don't have to compromise your boards because sometimes you will have to compromise boards and combos to squeeze in TPA. And if that's the case, a full 7 combo subs are going to do more because if they have double 7 Combo Awakenings, which are becoming more common, they're going to hit for explosively high damage, as well as the fact that Canna has one of the worst base actives in the whole game. It really does nothing. You always want to inherit over it, and it's got a pretty long cooldown. So, featured Pantheon. So, there's no plus minuses in this, and yes, it may be a little misleading. They look pretty even, but day 2, most of the featured cards are pluses for their respective letter grade, whereas day 1, most of them are minuses or neutral. So there's a little bit more favor for day 2 from the Pantheon perspective. And in my opinion, the Pantheon cards in day 2 are much more valuable as dupes because the Chinese Celestials are good board changers. All the Samurai 2s are very powerful in duplicates, so having duplicates of them is important because Samurai 2 has different evolutions with different active skills, and you want to choose in an ideal world. So in reality, like, day 2 has stronger Pantheons, but it's also better to have duplicates of day 2. So that is a big deal. And yes, day 1 does obviously have Liu Bei, Diao Chan, and Sima Yi. Only Diao Chan is the really good one to have duplicates of. Maybe some people like DQ XQs, but really, you don't really need duplicates of anything but 2 Diao Chans, nothing else. Duplicate to Sima Yi is not necessary. Haku is really just a better alternative. Haku is basically a better Sima Yi unless you need orb unlocking. So day 2 is definitely stronger from the Pantheon point of view, but do bear in mind that all the Samurai 2 Pantheon cards are 6-star bases, so they're harder to roll, but Diao Chan and Sima Yi are also 6 stars, so again, it's going to be challenging to acquire them compared to other Pantheons. Now, there are no valuable carnivals occurring in this Godfest, so there are going to be less collateral benefits, but again, with 6 times rates, we should be enjoying this overall. So putting this all together, day 1 is more heavily stacked for higher ranked cards for Godfest exclusives. We established that the Pantheons are better in day 2, but the Godfest exclusives are heavier weighted for day 1. With day 1 featuring the Norns, so Skald, Verdandi, and Erd, all of that delicious follow-up attack awakening. And follow-up attack awakening helps trivialize resolve bosses. It helps you basically just overcome encounters that would have been impossible for you otherwise, and it just makes your life so much easier. However, if you have those cards, there is not as much value possibly in day 1 overall, because like I said, I do prefer day 2 Pantheon cards overall, and I feel they are worth pursuing overall by comparison. Now, day 2 does feature more board changers overall, I feel, because they got the Sonias, they got the Norns, who did get new evolutions who I haven't looked at. I've been quite sick. You have all the Celestials, you do have Ilm, so you do have Samurai 2s. So you do have lots of board changers, so if you're in the market for a board changer, day 2 is definitely your way to go. And again, 6 times rates are a big deal. Like, you are going to be getting things that are featured more often than not, hopefully. So, in conclusion, like, this is a very powerful Godfest. Like, this is a very stacked Godfest compared to things we've experienced in the last couple of months. And if you're missing some or most of these cards, it is well worth rolling. And again, day 2, the duplicates are worth having. Like, you want to have multiple Hakus. Samurai 2s are great in duplicates because you have different evolutions and different active skills overall. So let me know what you think about this Godfest in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a fantastic day, and happy puzzling.